decided to do this. So I'm issuing a challenge. I'm calling it the Tattoo Challenge to get me to 5,000 subscribers before the 16th of August 2020. And if you guys help me get there, I get a tattoo. Yeah, and not just any tattoo, one that is chosen by you guys. So also, let me just make one thing clear. I don't like needles. I'm petrified of needles. I do have one tattoo, and that was a mission to get. So this isn't going to be easy for me. A tattoo is permanent. Anyway, with that being said, enjoy the show.
Oh, Bento, I'm loving your posts, bro. Your posts
Hello,
on
ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Let's Talk. Tonight is a very interesting and I hope insightful show. I'm joined by
hope you're right.
three comedians. Liam Bento on my right, and then below me is Chico, and then in the lower right corner is Peter Sawanga. You guys may have noticed or remember Peter Sawanga from our Let's Talk sessions on Wednesdays. Chico, you may recognize him from the roasts, and Liam I interviewed not too long ago on Sit Down and Lockdown, and we actually started. Chico approached me not too long ago wanting to talk about mental illness and bringing that to the forefront. Liam having a bit of experience, well, all of us having a bit of, I think, something. We've all been touched by it one way or another, experienced it one way or another, and we're just here to have an open conversation with everybody about it. I think Liam, in his interview, if you haven't watched it, please go and watch it. He made a very good point, and I think we'll start from there. Where, well, actually, Liam, I'll let you say again what you said on my show about your battle with addiction and how you feel about it.
Yeah, look, like I said in the interview with you last week, I'm very open and I'm very candid um, about my struggle with addiction and about my struggle with depression and anxiety, because for 20 years, I mean, I'd struggled with addiction for 20 years, and because of that, um, it took a massive toll on my mental health as well. So for the two of them, they go hand in hand. The depression and the addiction, they went hand in hand, and the anxiety coupled with that as well. So because I didn't take the necessary steps to address my depression and address my anxiety, my my addiction problems obviously got out of hand to the point where I overdosed last year. So um, you know, it's for me, it was almost, it felt almost shameful to admit that I was struggling, because we live in the society where admitting something like that, admitting that you need help, it's actually a problem. We struggle to do so. Asking for help, it actually comes across as weak, where it's actually completely the opposite. So for me, I finally got to that. I got to that point where I nearly lost everything, like my life, everything, right? And it was only at that point where I could put my hand up and say, "Yo, I've got this problem. I've been having this problem. I need help." And for me, it was the best thing that has ever happened to me. Actually getting that help, the necessary help. And I mean, you know, a lot of people think like you'll go to rehab, you'll come out, you'll be cured. But the truth of the matter is that I'll be a recovering addict for the rest of my life. I'm always going to be an addict. The difference is I'm either going to be a recovering addict or I'm going to be an active addict. And because that goes hand in hand with my depression issues and my anxiety issues, I'm always going to suffer from depression. I'm always going to suffer from anxiety. So, it's just, I'm at a point now where I realize it's okay for me to say, yo, this is me, this is what I'm going through. And the reason why I put my story out on social media and like, it's just to let other people know that it's okay to actually admit it. It's not a shameful thing if I'm because it's the same thing with my comedy. With my comedy, I try and talk about things that other people can relate to, because if I'm going through it, someone else is going through the same thing as well. So it's the exact same thing as that. If I'm experiencing it, I know this is not an isolated incident. if I go through it, there must be someone else in the world that is going through the same thing, and I don't want someone to go through the same thing that I went through, thinking that it's shameful for them to actually admit that they have a problem. Yeah.
Yo, can I ask a quick question? You said the active addict versus what was the other one? Active addict versus
Recovering addict.
recovering addict. What would you say the differences? What are the differences between the two? How would you
Okay.
differentiate the two of those?
So, like, plain and simple, active is you. I'm full blown in addiction. I'm doing everything that I'm not supposed to be doing. That is counter to the program, the 12-step program that I work. You know, I'm I'm lying about using. I'm not being forthcoming. I've taken back my own, like, my self will, instead of, because the 12 step, the NA, the 12-step program, it's a program of surrender. It's a program of um like surrender to and belief in a higher power. It's not a religious program. It's a spiritual program, right? So basically, when I'm inactive, I'm completely spiritually corrupt. I'm lying. I'm doing whatever needs to be done to feed my addiction. And in recovery, I'm doing the opposite of that. I'm not using. I'm following my program. I'm
Okay.
working the steps. I'm holding myself accountable. And yeah, that's basically the difference.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Chico.
Would you say that you said you have depression, right? You would you say that your your depression made you more susceptible to addiction, or does that question make sense? Like,
Yeah, like
if you didn't have depression, would you have maybe gone through the same cycle of addiction, or would it have been different, do you
yeah.
think?
Look, for me, the two went hand in hand, right? I was basically they talk about it. They talk about it in rehab, and they talk about it in the program. Is that people are born with addictive natures, right? And some of them that you don't actually follow, you don't follow through with that addiction, or your addiction lies somewhere else, and somewhere maybe a little bit that society would consider healthier, right? So it would be that, like, you addicted to success, or you addicted to, furthering yourself, addicted to education, things like that. But we're all born with addicted to something. And for people that are addicted to drugs, which was my case, like, for me, I was in complete denial about being an addict, because I didn't use um the like the drugs that people think about when you associate addiction. So I wasn't using, like, meth. I wasn't using heroin. I wasn't using cocaine. So in my mind, I wasn't an addict, because that's the picture that my mind painted for me. Was the people, drug addicts use, like, drugs like that, drugs that are dirty, drugs like cocaine and heroin, and meth and stuff like that. I wasn't doing that, but it was a rude awakening for me, when I realized that I'm basically, I'm a slave to my drug of choice, right? I can't, if left to my own devices, I'm just going to use. But my depression, I wasn't aware of the fact that I was actually clinically depressive until it was actually diagnosed while I was in rehab. And then that's when I realized that this had been coming on for a while already. It was just undiagnosed. I had no idea that that's what I was suffering from, because I never ever sought the help, or that diagnosis ever in my life. Um, but it was something that I had been feeling, and something that I had been experiencing my entire life. I just wasn't aware of what it was until someone told me what it was.
Yeah, and I think that's how most cases are. I was diagnosed at an early age, but my story is slightly different. I didn't get involved into any hard substances or anything like that. I was bullied a lot in my younger age, in Egypt, and that had a very big psychological effect on me, to the point where I did attempt to end my life. And I got help, and I've been using certain techniques to, when the darkness takes over, to fight it. It's not easy, as you said, Liam. It's something you're gonna fight, something we fight for the rest of our lives. Sometimes, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes some days are better than others. Obviously, sometimes, yeah, it just comes out of nowhere. But that's something I definitely battle with. And it's actually interesting that the four of us are talking about this, because we're all comedians and funny people, and everyone always says, like, comedians suffer from depression or some kind of mental illness. And I guess that's in a way kind of true. But yeah, that's kind of my story. I'm happy to take any questions if anybody has, but maybe Chico,
I
yeah,
have a question.
sure.
Uh, your techniques that you speak about, like when you feel yourself going into that slump, what sort of techniques is it that you go with?
It's a mental battle. So a lot of the times, like when it comes to rejection, when it comes to feeling, usually what sets me off or triggers me is like a sense of unworthiness or unwantedness, or anything to that extent, rejection, like I said, and even sometimes an insult, but it depends on the insult. And I have to take a few deep breaths. I remind myself that they're just words. I look at the source, depending on who it is that told me these hurtful things, because I think, well, I know that in Egypt, when I was being bullied and stuff like that, a lot of the reason why it's a trigger thing for me is because that's how I was bullied in Egypt. Like I was being told, like, you're an American piece of crap. You need to go home. Nobody likes you. Nobody wants you. Really horrible things, beaten up, stuff like that. So when I'm rejected, I kind of regress into that, and I have to remind myself that it's not the same. It's not the same. Like, for example, if you tell me, like, stupid example, but let's say you were running a show, and you say, no, Joe, I don't want you on the lineups. I used to be so bad where that would make me go into a bit of a depression because of the rejection. And I've learned that just because someone says no, just because someone rejects you, doesn't mean it's a reflection on me, like they hate me or they don't want me around or anything like that. And the techniques I've used to get me through that is reminding myself that people can say no, people can deny me, and it doesn't mean that they don't like me. And it's a very difficult battle that I go through with myself. But it's just a matter of constantly reminding myself, like, just take a few deep breaths. Doesn't necessarily mean what that person said. Doesn't necessarily mean those terrible things that you experienced back in the day. So that's some of the stuff.
Yeah. I think it was a quote that I read by Jim Carrey that said that he's very aware that depression is a real thing, but if you don't take the necessary steps, if you don't consume healthier content, if you don't eat good food, if you don't go out and get some fresh air or spend your time around better company, then you're not really giving yourself a fighting chance as far as it's concerned. So a lot of my addiction, well, all of my addiction was spent in isolation, right? Because it was my way of like getting away from people. Because being around people, for me, it's draining, right? It's completely energy sapping. It requires a lot of energy. So for me, I basically need to be by myself to recharge. But I got it to a point where I was like, yo, I need to recharge. I need to recharge. I'm drained. Where all I was doing was withdrawing into myself so that I could use, right? And I was completely self-isolated. So as like to counter that, I try and spend more time with my inner circle, so to
Yeah.
speak. You know, the people that I have real healthy relationship with and healthy friendships with. And for me, that isn't taxing on me at all. It's actually quite the opposite. It actually it's a lot more rejuvenating.
Yes, I agree with you. Choosing the right friends can definitely, your circle around you, to some extent family, but being around people that you can trust and that you know you can come to them and say, hey, I'm not feeling well today, or I'm not doing well today, and they're willing to sit down with you and say, what's up, like just vent with me, talk to me. Same with a partner. My wife is super supportive of me, and if I'm having a down day, she'll be like, let's talk, let's work through this together and stuff like that, which is amazing. So yeah, I wanna give Chico and Peter an opportunity to also say something. So Chico, what would you like to say? Do you suffer from what is it that you suffer from? What's your story?
Um, so, I mean, okay, let's start at the beginning. About 10 to 15 years ago, I can't remember when it was, but around that time, I was diagnosed with ADHD. Um, and I mean, I was lucky I was diagnosed the first time, like I was diagnosed correctly the first time. A lot of people don't. Um, and I mean, it really started because my school marks started dropping like dramatically, and weird things were happening in class. Like I would forget to hand in my homework, or like there's a story. My mom loves telling me the story because I can't remember any of it. I wrote a test, and then I got 0 for the test because it never made it to the teacher, and I didn't know where it was. It wasn't in the desk. It wasn't in my bag. It was just gone. But I wrote the test. Like that kind of thing. Like those things started seeping into my school experience. Kind of. Where was I? What was I? And yeah, so I was diagnosed with ADHD, and it's not what a lot of people think it is. It's not you can't sit still, or you're fidgety all the time, or you're bouncing off the walls all the time, or things like that. The typical idea of what ADHD is, and so the things that were being treated was directly only related to my ability to pay attention. So I was on the Ritalin so that I could, keep track of what I was doing. I could improve my marks at school again. I could, do all those things. And around, I was in high school or so, the depressive symptoms started kicking in. The like the anxiety kind of symptoms started kicking in. I started, freaking myself out because I was like, oh my God, something is wrong with me. And I didn't want to speak to anyone because I was so preoccupied with what was going on inside my brain. Like, someone would say something and immediately I would close off and I would just try and solve it myself. And that would spiral into all sorts of things. And I think only after I finished high school and I started studying, I was exposed to more people that had mental illnesses. I think it's a thing that's very common in the arts, that a lot of people in the arts have, ADHD and depression and anxiety and all these things. And so I was exposed to a lot of people that started talking about their mental illnesses. So I felt more comfortable expressing myself about it.
Yeah.
And for the last 2 years, I've, since I graduated, I haven't been using my medication. And because you take your medication thinking it's going to solve everything, you're going to be better, you're going to be fixed, you're going to have nothing to worry about. And I over the last 2 years, I haven't been medicated, and I don't feel like it's. A lot of people tell you that you shouldn't medicate because you're putting all these things into your body and sorts of things, like you can cure it with a diet or you can exercise and feel better, and I feel it's probably gotten worse over the last 2 years since I haven't medicated, and I've become more self-aware of what's happening. I don't know where this is going, but yeah. So the reason I wanted to have this conversation specifically is quite recently I've started, posting on Instagram and tweeting about mental health and the things that I'm kind of experiencing on a arbitrary things that I experience that I find are quite unique to having ADHD. And I felt that if I speak about it more and I, speak to people that have other conditions, that we can sort of find a common ground that we can share an experience with other people that have other mental illness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely, and I think that's why we're having this very open conversation at the moment. One of the things we mentioned earlier is there seems to be a stigma around mental illness, whether you suffer from ADHD or depression or whatever, anxiety. People seem to shy away from talking about it, which I think all of us can agree that we think that is something that needs to stop. The worst thing you can do is to be silent about your feelings or your what you're going through, and I think also to help those that are maybe embarrassed or shy or withdrawn is for, if you haven't heard from a friend in a while, if you haven't heard from a family member in a while, reach out. Hey, how are you doing? You never know. Hopefully that person will feel comfortable to respond and be open about what they're going through. But I think everyone needs to handle this situation with care and understanding as much as possible. And if you don't understand mental illness, then get to understand. Ask. Like, for example, Chico, I'm very curious to know, ADHD, right? You said earlier that there's a lot of misconceptions of ADHD. People think you're bouncing off the walls and stuff like that. Is it maybe just as simple as saying that your brain is just really, 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 really active?
Yeah.
So the hyperactive part is like an extension to attention deficit disorder. So so ADD would then be the umbrella term for the attention deficit, and the hyperactivity would then be an extra symptom.
Okay.
So for those people, I assume that their brains are probably very active, and that is causing them to not be able to pay much attention. But then in my case, I've got the inattentive I'm not hyperactive, and so then my brain is underactive. It's understimulated by everything.
Okay.
I must admit, Chico, and thank you for sharing that. I must admit, I was one of the people that also, that thought ADHD, it's like bouncing off the walls, and can't sit still, can't do anything like that, um that's the common misconception, right? That's what um basically popular culture and the media, uh that's what they lead you to believe. And that was my misconception around ADHD, until I actually met someone, um while I was in treatment, who suffers from ADHD. And the way that he explained it to me is that, like, you get people like maybe what you just said now, that your your attention deficit is due to basically whatever the subject matter is. It's not stimulating enough to keep your attention there. And then you get someone like him that has with ADHD. It's basically like, it's not that he's not paying attention. It's that he's paying attention to so many things at the same time. It's like basically mentally juggling 100 balls at the same time and trying to keep it up in the air. So while, say for example, you're in a lecture, he's like, the lecturer has his attention. The hot girl over there has his attention. Someone that is picking the nose over there has his attention, and he's basically, his attention is everywhere. And basically, it starts to make him fidgety, because he's trying to keep focus on all of these things at the same time. So that fidgeting, that maybe like that restless leg that he keeps tapping, it's basically something that is soothing to him, to help him actually, just keep his focus on where it actually needs to be. So I like I completely, when he explained it to me, I completely understood. It's like, oh, okay, cool. You get someone that is not paying attention because they are just completely understimulated by the material. It's not that person's fault. And then you get someone else that's just like trying to pay attention to everything at the same time, which is basically just mentally impossible.
Mm.
I got a question, guys.
Yeah.
Joey, you were talking about what the kinds of things that set you off or lead you to down towards that path.
Yeah.
From what I've been reading about mental illness in general, there's been like a steady increase in, especially according to this research, teenage girls and young men, an increase in anxiety, depression, and all of these things, which also coincides with the advent about 10, 15 years ago of social media and all of this mass stuff. So my question is to you guys, is there, in your experience, a correlation or some sort of link between the type of media you consume? You guys were talking about the people you hang around with, certain things happening that lead you further down or get you down that spiral. Has media consumption, shows, social media, all of this stuff, has that had some sort of impact, or does it, or does it play a part?
For me, it's probably had the biggest impact, because with the depression and the anxiety comes that self-loathing, that feeling that you are never enough, right? So now you're getting flooded on social media with all these images of what your life should be, or like people living their best lives, and you're consuming it, and you're looking at like, yo, I went to school with this homie. This homie did absolutely nothing at school, but look at him living his best life now. I am not living that life, right? So you keep seeing it, and you keep consuming it, and that keeps telling you, your gratitude starts taking a knock, right? People, like, today's society, we have a distinct lack of gratitude, right? You're so focused on what you don't have that you can't appreciate the good things that you do have. And as long as you don't practice gratitude in your own life, you're never ever going to have enough. So for me, it was like social media was probably the worst trigger for my mental illness, because I kept seeing all of these things and kept saying, like, why don't I have that? Why don't I have that? Instead of looking at the things that I do have and being grateful for it. I always felt like I never had enough. But now you
Wow.
I've roof over my head. I'm in good health. My wife is still gainfully employed. There's a lot to be grateful for. So yeah, I can believe that there's been a massive spike in depression and anxiety, and which will obviously it will probably cross over into addiction of some sort because of social media. The two of them are, they same WhatsApp group, right?
Yeah, and I also want to add to that. I think the lockdown has made things even worse for people. While, like, on social media, we're all in the same boat. Everyone complains about the same thing. Everyone is pretty much talking about the same thing. But now, in this environment that we're in now, the amount of negativity that is on social media. So, for example, people being murdered, gender-based violence. People not having cigarettes, alcohol ban. You hear every day of people, there's suicides happening, all that stuff. It sounds like the world is coming to an end, and I know in where I am and in my household, we've often said, like, what's the point? What's the point in living? When you go down that road, that's a very dangerous road to go down. And we have to constantly, like Liam just said, we have to remind ourselves, like, look, we've got a roof over our heads. We can still buy food. We can still, let's be thankful for the things that we do have, rather than focusing on the negative things. Because when you focus on the negative things, then that just really leads you down that rabbit hole all over again. So yeah, and social media, to answer your point, Peter, or to answer your question, Peter, absolutely. Instagram, I think, is the worst of them all, to be honest. Well,
Oh shit.
let me put it this way:
And
Instagram
Instagram.
is all about, like, self-load, like, hey, look at me, I'm, like, living my best life. Oh my word, yes, I got this new puppy today, I got this new dress today, I'm traveling, I'm here, I'm there, blah blah
Toes in the sand.
blah. Twitter is a whole nother ball game. That's just a cesspool of negativity. And Facebook is, like, somewhere in the middle. So you get like the worst and the best of both worlds. And yes, to some extent, social media can create more anxiety, and yeah, just have a very negative effect on it. I think it's very healthy for people. I often see and hear people who say, "I'm taking a social media break," and I think that's a very good thing, because people must remember, social media actually does not reflect real life. There's a lot of mean people. There's cyberbullying. There's fake news. There's a lot of negativity in social media, and it's always good to take a bit of a break. So yeah, I don't know if Jed.
So,
Sorry,
I don't feel
Peter, you're breaking up a little bit. Can't catch what you're saying.
But yeah, I get you on that, Joe. Your self-worth, it's almost as if your self-worth gets tied up into that follower number. So it's like, yo,
Exactly.
I'm only worth this much attention, basically, and it's that's all it is. It's a cry for attention. So what I've been using my Instagram for is, like, not to show me living my best life out on a yacht doing stuff, because I mean, that's not something people do every day. That's
Exactly.
unreal. People are not attending gala events every day or partying out on a yacht to do. So I will post things that I'm doing every day. I'll post myself eating a Gatsby, or I'll post, my pic of myself and my son going out for a walk, because that is my life. I'm now using it for the purpose that it was really meant for. It's not to like glorify, or to get people to shout out to people like, look at me, follow me.
Yeah.
I'm worth it. I'm just putting it out there as like a show of love. It's like, yo, it's okay to just live a normal life and be happy, and just put those happy pics out there, and just like enjoy, like, love yours, man. That's all.
Exactly. I have a few questions here, guys. I hope you guys don't mind. I do want to get to some of the comments here. We've actually been getting a lot of love from the comments. So one thing that I would like to address very quickly, I saw it and I'm sorry that I didn't bring it up sooner, but I do want to bring it up now. Let me just see. Sorry, guys, give me a moment. So Nabila Isat is watching, and she says, "Good evening, gents. Thank you, Joe, for having this topic. She feels like she's slipping back. So this has obviously caused some people to talk to her, and we're telling her, or people in the chats are telling her to be strong. And Nabila, I want you to know, remember, you can chat to me, you can chat to Liam. Liam's openly said that if anybody ever wants to chat to him about anything, they can DM him, and you know that I'm also a WhatsApp away. And I think that's very important, that we must be there to support one another. And then, let's see. So everyone's saying they're enjoying the topic. It's a good thing that we're talking about this. I did see a question, and I'm trying to find it. It was for Chico. Whoever asked that question for Chico, please repeat it. I know it is about his ADHD. There was a question about his ADHD, so please, because I can't seem to find it right now. And then people also saying they don't like the labeling. Here we go. Found it. Chico. This is from Joanna Rydell, who's going to be on my show on Wednesday. So please come check that out. Thank you so much for watching. Okay, so Chico, she says, do you find that while you are busy with something, and somewhere along the line you realize you zoned out to another place in your mind?
Yes. It happens most often when I'm driving, actually.
That's not good.
No, apparently the driving thing is a very common thing for ADHD, especially if it's a route that you do very often.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So you drive and you kind of go on autopilot. So you're driving and you have this vivid, like, it's almost like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, someone explained it once, that they drive, and if a truck passes them, they have this kind of hallucination that they can make the truck do whatever they want it to do, and it will feel like it's actually doing that. And then they will suddenly reappear, like awaken, kind of, and then be where they were going and not remember how they got there, kind of thing. Like not remember taking this turn off, and things like that. They kind of do it automatically, and that has happened to me quite a lot. And another thing, I think I said something about this morning. I was making coffee, and then I was just looking at the kettle, and it finished boiling, and I was still looking at the kettle, and I kept looking at the at the kettle, and then I realized that, I'm supposed to do something with it.
Yeah, but couldn't that be your brain just waking up?
It actually happens with quite a few things. Like, you'll be doing something, and then all of a sudden you'll just be staring at it, like I'm supposed to be doing this, but I'm not. I'm just looking. It happens.
What is like when you do that, right? So like when you zone out, right? Are you thinking about stuff? Like, are you thinking about what you need to do today? Are you thinking about, or you just is your mind just empty?
I mean, I'm aware that I'm zoning out. I know that I'm zoning out, and but I can't zone back in again. Like I can feel myself going, and then I can feel myself going into it somewhere else, and I can. It's a strange thing to try and explain. Yeah,
Well, I can tell you that you're not the only one because Nabila says that the same thing happens to her when she's driving. Mr. Punisher also says it happens to him when he's driving as well. Seems to be, like you said, a very common thing that happens. And then I've got a weird question here. Charmaine asking Joe, "Are you a Freemason?" No. That is like the most random.
No, he's a Templar. He's a Templar.
I thought,
got the round table and everything.
I mean, that's the comments that are coming through. It's proof. It's proof that if it's again, it's that common thread, right? If one of us is experiencing it, the chances are that someone else is going to be experiencing the same thing as well. And for me, what I've noticed is a big reason as to why people don't come forward and say that they are that they do have a mental illness or they are struggling with something is because depression and anxiety and addiction have become such buzzwords. They've become such buzzwords in popular culture for influencer type people or narcissists, basically, to use it as a label to basically just gain more attention or you know have a maybe gain like some sort of false sympathy and from that gain attention. And you know, like then you get the normal everyday person that is really struggling with it, but they don't want to say something because this famous person or this influencer person is struggling with it. So who am I to be struggling with this person is obviously a lot more famous, a lot more important, even though it is self-importance. Who am I to be struggling with the same thing that this person is struggling with? So people will hold back because society will say, oh, you just like for like I'm just throwing it out as an example. Oh, you just have depression because you saw Nadia Jafta has depression. You know, something like that. So then society will start shaming you because it's almost as if you are trying to trend jump or just like trying to jump on this trend because it's happening for someone that is somehow in the spotlight or the limelight.
yes. Um, Very good point, Liam, and I'm glad you brought that up because that is something that needs to be addressed as well. And I want to ask you, how do we, and how does anyone else for that matter, pick up on a person that is like that? Is there like red flags that we can look out for?
Honestly, I don't know, but what my program, what the program that I'm working is has taught me is that it's not about judging someone else, right? It's about keeping your own side of the street clean. So if someone is doing it to gain clout, to gain following, to gain attention, or anything like that, because it seems to be the it thing or the buzz thing to help them gain that sort of attention, that's none of my business. What is my business is how I deal with it, how I deal with my own mental illness, how I move forward from that. What they are doing, it's none of my concern. So like basically what they eat doesn't make me shit, right? So I just need to focus. I need to focus on myself. So if people are out there doing it for the wrong reasons, um, there is nothing I can do about it. All I have at the end of the day is my own story. I can share my own story, and if it rings true to someone else, like yo, this when you said that, it felt like you were speaking my own story. Then that, I mean, for me, that's enough for them to like reach out and say, I felt that, that rang true for me. I'm going through the same thing. What are you doing? What can I do to get help?
I don't know, man. I've seen these people that do that kind of like ride the wave for clouts and stuff like that. I think it's horribly wrong. I think it's almost like I feel like that person is faking cancer, having cancer. You know, there's like people out there that will do that just so they can raise funds and dupe people and stuff like that. And I feel like it's almost the same thing, where people they claim to be depressed and then they kind of like go in this whole spiel about it to get following and stuff like that. I would call them out on it, and you know, because some people get really influenced, especially like we were discussing earlier, social media for influencers. They have great power, great responsibility. With great power comes great responsibility. For you to just start spewing out all this stuff about mental illness and you don't really suffer from it, but you're using it because you want to get sympathy and followers. I think that's wrong, and I think someone should call you out on it. That's my opinion, though. And yeah, no one has the right to judge. I understand that too. It is difficult. Reese, hello Reese, thank you for tuning in. Reese saying it's difficult to see if someone has any mental illness because the happiest people usually struggle alone. This is true, and we were discussing that as well. It's again, it's up to people who are suffering, who are going through this. I think the four of us are very welcoming, and like I've said this before, if anybody is struggling, and Liam said it before as well, with mental illness, like just DM us, just say, hey, I'm not having a good day today. Hey, can I chat to you? We will chat to you. We know what it feels like. We know, and the worst thing I think you can feel is that feeling of being alone. What do you guys think about that?
I fully agree with that. Yeah, that isolation, that loneliness. I mean, I don't know how many of you guys have ever felt it before, but you can be standing in a crowded room with like surrounded by people that you know and feel completely alone, because of what you are actually going through, and it's not a healthy feeling. It's not a good feeling at all. So, you know, the best thing that you can actually do is reach out. And it's true what they're saying in the comments. There is no face of mental illness. It does not discriminate against anyone, any race, any gender, nothing. Anybody can suffer from it, right?
Yeah.
So the best thing that you can do is actually put your hand up and say, I'm going through this. And a big thing that we need to, that a big thing about breaking the stigma around mental illness is putting away that shame. I mean, shame is what it actually cripples you, and it leads you to feel things that are untrue. So you shouldn't be ashamed of it. I mean, it's an illness. It is like, you wouldn't feel ashamed if you have cancer. I mean, if you survive cancer, you're a hero. So yeah, you're struggling with mental illness and you're surviving every day. You are, in fact, a hero, right? So start treating yourself like a hero. Start acting like a hero. I mean, it's not an easy thing going to war with your mind every day. It's terrifying. You don't know what to expect. So stop being ashamed of it. I know it's easier said than done. I mean, I struggled with it for like 20 years and before actually getting the help that I needed. But it was once it was diagnosed, and once I was told what was going on, like, admitting the problem was the easiest thing to do. That it felt like a weight off of my shoulders to be able to admit, it's like, this is what I've been struggling with. This is what I couldn't put my finger on all this time. So yeah, put that shame aside. Stick your hand up, reach out to someone that you know is going through it as well, and get the help that's necessary.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we just had someone ask Joe, I think they addressed it to me, but I think it's to everyone. How do I reach out? How do you reach out? We are not difficult to find. Instagram, Liam Bento is on Instagram, Chico is on Twitter, and I think Instagram. I'm on Instagram everywhere, wherever. Like my email is in the YouTube about section. Email me, DM me on any social media. Same with Liam. Uh, we'll happily chat to you. It's that easy. And I will say this, and I wanna say this right now. I am blown away by the chats. I don't know if any of you guys are keeping an eye on the chats, but everyone is very, 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 very kind and gracious, and everybody's supporting each other in the chats, which is a beautiful thing to see. And I think already we can feel this sense of community of people just coming together. And I know that in the chats there's different people from different backgrounds, white, colored, black, a huge mix of people in the chats, and we're all, just chatting to one another and saying, "Be strong. We're here. You're not alone." And I think that's a beautiful thing. I think this is great.
Yeah, I can't really see the comments, but I'll, when I watch this video back, I'll be sure to check out the comments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I just want to see Peter. I don't know what's happened to you, buddy.
No chatting.
Peter, are you there? He's having some major connection problems. So Charmaine says here, call me. I'll help you out of depression. Positive conversations with yourself every day will help you stay positive. Cut nasty people out of your life, uh, especially family members, because they are the worst. Not all family members. But yes, we mentioned this earlier as well. Your circles are very important. If there is a toxic person, whether it be family or not, distance yourself. Especially if you're sensitive to negativity and stuff like that. So what Charmaine says is not wrong.
Yeah, but sometimes, sometimes you, you know, sometimes you have to realize that maybe you are actually the toxic person, which was the case for me. I was the toxic person, so my I wasn't really fostering any relationships with friends or with family because of baggage that I was carrying, my own baggage that I was carrying, right? And it obviously caused me to have a lot of resentment towards other people because I obviously wasn't handling my own baggage well. So, it does require a lot of introspection. You've got to have a tough conversation with yourself, like, yo, the reason why does this person have such an effect on me? Is it something that they are doing, or is it something that I'm not dealing with within myself? And a lot of the times you can be your own trigger for
Mm.
for an episode, right? So you gotta definitely foster healthy conversations with people, because sometimes you just need to bounce it off. You need an objective view. So have a conversation with someone, like tell someone what it is exactly that you're going through with whoever that is causing you to feel the way that's causing you to feel all kinds of triggered. And if it's someone that actually genuinely cares about you or understands and has the ability to remain objective, they'll be able to tell you whether you should cut that person off because they are bad for your health, or whether you need to go and fix yourself because it's something that you are doing within yourself that is causing this bad relationship.
Mm. I agree. All right, so we're approaching the 1 hour mark, and I want to keep it to an hour because I don't want to scare people away. I would love for people to watch this. So those of you that are watching, please share this video, like this video, make sure that people watch this, and I hope that the more people that watch this, the more comfortable they will feel. Like, oh my word, like we were saying earlier, I'm not the only one. Being alone is probably the worst thing, and of course, because we're in this lockdown, People are dealing with a lot of anxiety. They're suffering. For those who are smokers, are suffering. For those who, and that's the thing. I think this is something else. Even if we had smokes, even if we had alcohol, even if we had maybe not as strict of a lockdown, human connection is something that I think some people miss. Like some people are introverts and they don't mind being at home, and they work at home, and they play their video games at home and all that stuff. But there are people in this world that enjoy human connection. Performers, for example, we love the live performance, that relationship with the audience. And I don't know about you guys, but yeah, I miss it. I miss it terribly. That real roar of laughter, that after a show, you take pictures with the people, and you mingle with the people, and you get the feedback, and I just took that for granted. It's crazy. So I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Yeah, I was usually the one holding the camera after the shows. Like when people want to take pics for the headline, I'm the one taking the picture. I don't know what you're talking about, bro.
Dude, that happened to me. You know what happened to me? So I was on. Oh wait, this is a funny story. So I did a show with Rob from Furin, right? So he was headlining, and I went up before him. All right, and then after the show, so him and I did very well. Obviously, Rob killed it, right? So now I'm doing the show. I'm chilling with Rob at the bar. Okay, we're having a conversation. This guy, I don't blame him. He's a fan, right? He like pushes me aside, like, dude, you were so funny, man. Like he's talking to Rob, like, oh, you were so funny. Can we get a picture? And then he hands me his phone, like, can you take a picture of us?
Welcome to my world. Welcome to my world.
Oh man, it was, and then what was even more embarrassing, right? Is once I had taken the photo, and I was like, yeah, it's fine, cool, whatever. He looks at me. He's like, oh yeah, you were also performing. Let me get a picture with you too, man. Let me get a picture.
Oh,
I got a sympathy picture.
The sympathy snap.
Hey, Peter, you're alive. We just see a Skype logo on my side. I didn't know you were still there.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Connection
man.
problems, fellas.
Yeah.
Connection issues. Yeah.
Look, I think what I would like to do is have I don't think I mean, how do you guys feel? Chico, Peter, Liam, do you guys want to do another session like this? Do you think there's more to talk about? Because Nabila said that she would like to be part of the conversation as well.
Yeah, this is a broad topic. There's much to be spoken about.
Liam?
Yeah, I think we've barely scratched the surface. I think this is a good platform for people that are watching to actually put their questions forward, or address whatever issues they have, and we can talk on those issues. I mean, there's obviously people that are going through some things, and I'm more than happy to try and help talk people through this. I mean, if there is anyone that is struggling with addiction, if there's anyone that is struggling with depression or anxiety, I'm happy to address all issues, man.
All right, fantastic. Then Nabila, get in contact with me. We'll set up a date where you can also be part of the panel and share your story, and we can have a discussion. So yeah, once again, I'm gonna cut it off here. So Storm has put it out there saying that if anybody wants to talk, they can contact him. So there you go. Thank you, Storm, for putting that out there. I want to thank Liam. I want to thank the Skype logo that's showing now, and I want to thank Chico for joining me on the show.
This is the Overlord speaking. This is the CIA. Shut this down right now.
Miscellaneous one.
Peter just really wanted to be an audience member today.
Oh man, I just wanted to participate.
But Peter, I don't know why. It seems YouTube knows that you ask a lot of questions, and it seems to be
Yo,
censoring
bro.
you.
He's 24.
Trying
They're
to
watching him.
All that data,
shut a brother down.
all the data was used on the woke conversation now the other day. That's why he's struggling with connection
Oh
tonight.
my, yeah. See that? Have you noticed how it's only the dark-skinned brother that got cut off? Huh? You see this? Do you see what is going on here, folks?
Oh man. All right.
But
Well,
I definitely think we should have this conversation. Another one, yeah. I want to really pick your guys' brains, Liam and Chico. I really want to talk to you guys about this.
Have the
All right.
same conversation again. Peter missed the whole conversation.
yes.
Happy to be part.
We will do it again. So I'll be in contact with you guys, and we'll figure out a date, and we'll definitely do another one. Okay, Charmaine. Very quickly, Charmaine saying, Joe, can you guys please can you do a pre-recorded comedy show for us, please? I'll support that, please, please, please. We'll discuss that. Comedy shows at the moment are a tricky thing. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for watching. I feel like this was a very important conversation to have, and I thank every one of you that tuned in, that gave your comments, that were open about how you were feeling. This is a safe space, and I thank you all so much for supporting. I thank Liam, Chico, and Peter, the blue Skype logo, for being part of this and also being open and candid about the situation. Well, you guys can see him, but on my side, he's a Skype logo. So when you guys watch this again, you'll see. So thank you all so much. We will be back again. And please support my channel, subscribe, like this video. The more you like it, the more it will be pushed out by YouTube. And also share this video. Let people know that they are not alone. And we're here. We're here to chat. So gents, stay on the line. As for everybody else, cheers. And I'll see you at the next one.